Good morning, welcome to Saltfix. I went out early this morning, the swell was pumping. It was calm, but it was really lumpy, really not too nice, and it was freezing, like literally, I don't know, 1-2 degrees. My fingers were frozen. I stayed out for about half an hour. I took my little mate Zane out with me. He's been a bit sick the last few days and he wasn't feeling too well out there this morning either, so we called it a day after about half an hour. I didn't want to push him. Last thing I want is him getting seasick, that he just won't want to come out with me again. So because he wasn't feeling well, it was cold, he had a cough, I just decided it was time to come in. So anyway, I've been asked by a few people to do a bit of a run through of my boat and a bit of my setup and how I go about stuff. Guys, my boat's nothing special. It's old. It's probably 10-15 years old now. I've only had it for 4 years, but the actual boat itself, I bought it secondhand a while ago. Anyway, it's a Fraser 525. I'll show you a bit around the outside first, and then I'll show you the inside, what I've got going on in here. So it's a Fraser 525. Actually, I'm going to show you a couple of things I like about it, and I'll point out the things I don't like about it. So number one, that's it there. Just on 17 foot. All of this clear stuff with the tug bar, I built that myself. I welded up stainless with my MIG. My first shot at really welding stainless, but I gave it a crack and it's holding together so far. The welds aren't pretty and they've tarnished a little bit, but it's strong. I've hung off it. It's not broken, so it's great. I love the idea that I can stay warm and dry. The spray just doesn't get in. You can stay in there when it's raining. You can stay dry, which is the best part. Second best thing I did, I bought a new trailer recently because my other trailer died. I put this walking platform, if you want to call it, all the way down to the back of the trailer here. So good to keep your feet dry. In the winter time, the last thing you want is getting your feet wet before you even get out there or whatever. Second best thing, these things, guys. Sea boots, just get yourself some. You can wear socks, you keep your feet warm and dry. Again, you don't want cold, wet feet in the winter, it's just not cool. So this boat here, it's not big by any stretch of the imagination, but it's big enough to be able to deal with a bit of chop. It's got big shoulders, it's kind of wide at the front, awesome for a following sea. Just doesn't even look like dipping its nose in a following sea, it just surfs down the face of waves really good. Reasonably sharp V at the bottom here, cuts through the chop okay. The only downside with it would be is that it's very short. So being very short tends to sort of bob up and down a lot, front to back. I'm kind of willing to put up with that. So yeah, it tends to bob up and down a bit at the front like that. But like I said, the wide shoulders, it surfs down waves really good. In a following sea, it's just unbelievable. Straight into the sea, it's really good in the chop, not too bad at all. Again, it's a small boat, it's not huge, it's not very heavy, probably weighs just on 850 kilos, I think, loaded up, so it's not hugely heavy. But it cuts through the chop good enough for me. I can sit on 20 knots into pretty much any sort of chop, which is perfect. So inside, like I said, here's my little cab. I can tuck in here, perfectly stay nice and warm and dry inside my little cab here. Even when it's raining, I can stay in here and I'm warm, I'm dry. I'm only a short step away from the rods here. I designed this cab to pretty much be as short and as compact as I could. I wanted the protection, but I also wanted to keep as much fishing space at the back as I could. So I pushed this right forward, right to the end of the windscreen sort of thing here, and made it vertical. Would have looked better if it was raked back a little bit, but I wanted to sort of save as much space as I possibly could. So there's my net. My net sort of lives in here. That comes out easy enough, unfolds that. This is a little seat here. Originally this boat had back-to-back seats, sort of like speedboat style. I didn't like that straight away because I stand up to drive, and they were automatically straight in the way. So I toyed around with a few different ideas, played around, changed the configuration a few times. But at the moment I'm running with this. The seat's pretty busted. I need to get some new cushions built, but until I kind of get a final plan of how I want it, I'm not going to spend the money. But basically I like this walk-through thing here. for the simple reason is I can stand up like this. Now I'm standing up, I can drive standing up, I can brace. I've got plenty of room to walk around here and brace and stand up while I'm driving. But if I'm getting lazy, I can always just sit down like this and drive from here as well. It's pretty comfortable to sit down and drive, so sort of the best of both worlds. Two people can sit down on it, no worries at all. Underneath, that's where I store all my tackle, my leaders, my knives, my biscuits, soft plastics in there, and then all my other terminal tackle down the bottom there. Underneath, carry my spare fuel tank, 25 litres of fuel, another 25 litres at the back there. It would be handy to have an underfloor fuel tank. I have got the space here to do it. Underneath this hatch under here, that's just where I keep my sea anchor and some bits and pieces. The reason I don't have an underfloor fuel tank at the moment is I live sort of remote in the country and there's no fuel station. There's no fuel station near me. It's a half an hour, 45-minute round trip to go and get fuel for me. So for me, the carry tanks works good because I can go and get fuel in the car, and I don't have to drag my boat 45 minutes to go and get fuel each time. So for me, the carry tanks work perfectly. I can just whack them in the back of the ute when I'm driving downtown or whatever and go and get fuel that way. Makes it a whole lot easier for me. That's the only reason I use carry tanks. I'm running that 1115 Yamaha on the back. Again, a lot of people say these 115 Yamahas are renowned for being thirsty engines. On this boat, 115 is the maximum this boat can handle. This boat just walks along. This motor is hardly working. At 20 knots, or actually 19 knots, it sits on 3,100 RPM, which is basically just walking along, you know. At a comfortable jog, say, you know, 3,800, I'm sitting on 25 knots. It'll sit on 30 knots without even blinking. It's sort of only a comfortable canter at 30 knots. 30 knots is fast enough for any boat. I've had this one up onto 40 knots, and it was still climbing. I actually chickened out. It was just hardly it wasn't even in the water. It was actually getting to the point where it was getting a bit scary. Too fast for a boat of this size, but being as this motor doesn't work very hard, it ticks along. A 25 litre tank. Believe it or not, I've actually had over 20 nautical mile round trips out of a 20 litre tank a 25 litre tank in this boat. So for me, running carry tanks, it's not a big deal for me. It's actually more convenient. So down the back, I've also got my dual battery setup. There's my Cole-Hersey switch there. Dual batteries. There's the oil for my two-stroke. Again, I don't mind the two-stroke. I've pulled this motor apart. I've pulled the carbies off it, stripped it down a few times and got myself out of trouble. If it was a four-stroke, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have had to call a mechanic and get it done, and it would have cost me a heap of money. One time in Exmouth, I got a mouthful of dirty red dust fuel for somewhere. Would have spoiled our holiday if I had to get a mechanic. Probably in the week I was there, I wouldn't have got a mechanic. So I ended up looking online, getting the parts diagram for the carbies, pulled the carbies off, stripped them down. We were back on the water that afternoon, and our holiday carried on, and we fished as usual. So two-strokes does have its advantage. It's simple, it's easy to fix. Having said that, I am looking in the near future to moving to a four-stroke engine. I'm probably going to stay with a 115. Again, I just like the speed, not so much the speed, just the being able to cruise at 20 knots at very low revs. It makes it more economical. Anyway, I feel like I'm dribbling shit a bit now. So anyway, I'll go to tackle. So tackle, this is a new one I just bought recently. As you can see, I've got 4 rod holders down that side, 4 rod holders down that side. I always take 4 out with me. For the basic fact, I fish with 2 at a time, but if you bust off or snag the bottom, it's good to have a handy one already rigged up. You can see they're all rigged up, all ready to go. It's always handy to have one rigged up. You can just put the busted one in a holder, grab another one, cast out, get a bait in the water, and then worry about rigging the other one back up. So you've always got baits in the water. So anyway, I'll go through some outfits. This is one I bought just the other week here. This one's the Daiwa 6500. I've put 50-pound line on this, run it on a Shimano T-curve jigging rod. I set this one up. I've been running into some big kings and some big angry sambos lately, so I bought this rod as well. I already had the rod, but I bought the reel and some 50-pound line to hopefully try and stop some big fish coming up soon. So I haven't really had a chance to use it since I've bought it, but eventually hopefully I can show you guys how hopefully we can stop a decent king and get one to the boat, because I've been smoked by a few of them recently, so it'd be nice to actually see one and get it to the boat. So that's my 50-pound outfit. It sort of lives at this end here. So this one's a Daiwa Generation Black, 4000 size. I run 20-pound line on this. It's a Daiwa Ed X. It's just a 20-pound, 7-foot sort of casting rod. This is what I run for snapper. This is a really cool setup for snapper. It's light, it's easy to use. It'll cast half a muley or unweighted baits for miles. It's got plenty of line. It's got just short of 300 meters of line on there, so that's plenty of line. If something's running 300 meters off you, you got bigger problems. So I run 20-pound leaders straight to a hook, as you can see. So that's outfit number 1 that I run. Outfit number 2, some of you guys might have seen this in a video recently, or last year now. I won this in a fishing photo competition through Real Action TV. Won this combination. It's the Abu Garcia Veritas rod. I really like the rod. The rod's really light, really responsive. Got plenty of power down low, really nice rod. Running the Abu Revo reel, 4000 size. I don't know, an Abu. This is running 20-pound line on this one as well. The reel, it's all right for free. I'll take it. I don't think I'd buy one. It's light and it does what it's supposed to do, but it's sort of already making noises, and after a year's worth of use, it's already feeling kind of pretty worn out and just not as good as it should. But like I said, I got it for nothing, so I'm not complaining. But yeah, I don't know if I'll buy another one of the reels. The rod, definitely I'll buy another one of the rods. The rods I really like. So that's the Abu Veritas combo, 20-pound. I've caught a lot of big snapper on this. It actually goes all right. I complain a bit about the reel, which I shouldn't, because I don't know, there's nothing really wrong with it. What I really don't like about it is the handle. The handle's just really small, really close in. It just, if you look at that handle, if you have a look at that handle compared to the handle on the Daiwa 4000, I'll just put it down here. If you have a look at this handle here compared to the handle on the Daiwa 4000, it's just a much more bulkier handle. It sits out a bit further from the reel. It's got a bigger handle, just far more positive engagement. Just when you want to winch down on a fish, it just feels a lot easier to do that with the big Daiwa handles. This sort of feels a bit toy-like and a bit small. Probably better for spinning and for winding your lures faster with a smaller handle, but for what I do, I prefer the big handles on the Daiwa, which is kind of why I lean in that direction. Number 3. So this is just a Paul Worsteling Shimano, again 7-foot, sort of like a barrow spin rod, probably just a bit shorter, 7-foot actually. Just a barrow spin rod, 6'6", 20-pound light. On this one here, it's running a Quantum Smoke. This is just a reel I got from my cousin a while ago there. I don't know where he got it from. He sort of passed it on. It's got 20-pound line on it. This is just sort of my backup reel that I go with. It's actually got a really nice drag on it, and it's really waterproof at the top, so I don't mind it for that reasons. So far, it hasn't let me down. It's not a bad reel, so this is kind of just my spare combo that I always have rigged up. When one of the other two goes down, I've got that one set up, ready to go as soon as I need it. I'm just going to move this one out of the way. Oh, look. It'd be bad of me not to mention this. So this here, the Ugly Stick. This is the Ugly Stick canoe rod. That's it. It's 3 foot long. Runs this little Quantum reel on it. That's neither here or there. This is my bait fishing rod. As you can see now, I've got a squid jig on there. This is always on board for catching bait. Any squid rock up, straight away we're ready with a spike on there for squid. This always lives on board. Just a handy little thing to have on board. Have caught some pretty big fish on that. I've actually caught snapper on that rod before. It's surprising little rod. I've had it for probably, I think my son got it. My first son got it when he was about 2 years old. So I've had it for 15 years now and it's still going strong. You just can't break ugly sticks. That's the good thing about them. Gets bashed, thrown around, but still going strong. So underneath here, underneath the gunnels here, I've got another setup in horizontal rod racks down here. So I've got horizontal racks down here. So this one's another Shimano T-curve jigging rod. Probably a little bit lighter than the other one, quite a bit lighter. This one's sort of a 20-pound setup. I've got the Daiwa frams on here. Again, the Daiwa, look at the size of the handle. Just that, the 4000 size on the Daiwa with this big handle just really suits what I do for snapper fishing. I've had this one for 7 years now. Still goes strong, still as smooth as the day I bought it. Top reels, you just can't break them. Really good drag. Oh, I did replace the drag in this one and put the Carvatech washers in it a few years ago now. Still goes strong. Again, this one runs 20 pound. I've got this set up with a little slider jig on it at the moment. This can fall into action for anything, casting lures, for jigging the sliders. Sometimes when I'm fishing at anchor, I like to just drop a slider over the side. This one just goes in the side holder and just dangles over the side. And just the motion of the boat jigs that slider up and down, and it picks up a lot of dewies and stuff like that, so that's always handy. This one just lives underneath the side here in the horizontal racks underneath, out of the way. It's no problem for anyone else. Underneath in my horizontals, again down here, I've got my fly rod. I haven't done much with the fly rod recently. It's something I need to get into a bit more. I think I've really said I was going to catch a snapper on fly. I really have to make an effort to do it. I always carry it with me. As it's underneath the gunnels there, it doesn't get wet, sort of stays out of the salt and the spray, so it's all right. It just sits there. If I ever want it, I know it's there. It's already rigged up with a little fly on it. If something rocks up in the burley trail, a little school of kings or something, it's always right there. I can grab it. It's rigged. It's ready to go. Like I say, I should use it a bit more. I just don't seem to for some reason. I don't know why. This, I've showed you this before. This I always have on board. Just a container full of chicken pellets soaked in oil. It's just an old gym protein thing, I don't know. I always just leave that in there. That's full of chicken pellets. Got my deck wash down here. Up the front, so what have I got? My 27 meg radio. Lawrence HDS 5, not the best sounder in the world. It's what came with the boat. I use that for my mapping and my GPS mostly. And then I run my Ferrino 4100 on this side here. Sometimes it's pretty good to run two sounders. It's kind of good to run two sounders side by side. The Ferrino, I had it on a previous boat and I really got to know it well, and I really understand the Ferrino and how it works. It is only a monochrome, only a grey screen. But when I see fish on the Ferrino, it doesn't lie to me. I know there's fish on the Ferrino. When I see them on there, if I see snapper marks on that, I know it's a snapper, and I'll guarantee you they're a snapper. When I see them on the Lawrence, I'm not so sure. It tends to get a lot of clutter, just a lot of stuff popping up on the Lawrence. It's probably just settings. Maybe it's the color palette, I don't know, but I like to run them side by side. I'll run the Ferrino on bottom lock, which will lock the bottom and just show me fish on the bottom, and then I'll run the Lawrence on normal scan, which will show me the bottom in a different, it gives me two different sort of pictures of the same bottom, which can come in handy sometimes if I'm out deep looking for hard ground, for dewies or something like that. In close where I fish mostly, it doesn't really matter. I just go for the structure. I'll look for big structure and sit behind big structure. You don't even need a sounder for that. You can pretty much see that by eye. So obviously got my EPIRB there, my stereo. Underneath the bow here, just all my life jackets, a couple of jackets, a hat. I like these containers. This one's for my wallet, my keys. I always put my wallet, my keys and my phone in this container. Screw top lid. If anything happens and it stays dry, it'll float. If the boat goes over or sinks, your wallet, your keys, everything are in here, they should float. Same with my flares. My flares are in a screw top container as well. They're all stuffed in there. Same thing again, they're dry. They're not going to get wet. Just keeps your flares in much better condition. The usual stuff everyone's got in their boat. 6 different bottles of sunscreen, a mask, 45 different knives, probably a heap of shit that I should clean out, but just never get around to doing. So another cool thing about this boat, I've got my clears. You can zip down either side here, which is always handy. When you're driving, you want to be able to see where you're going. If there's spray, you can zip it back up when you're in the clear. Awesome. I really like to see where I'm going, so I like to have this zipped down as much as possible, unless I'm getting wet. This is awesome. The walk-through windscreen, I can walk right through and tend to my anchor at the front. I run a reef anchor at the front here, run a reef anchor, and inside here I've got a sand anchor as well. All the rope for the reefy kind of sits off to this side, but the sand anchor is in there if I need it. It's not the best system, to be honest with you. It's something I really need to work on. I rarely ever use the sand anchor. That's why it's sort of buried at the bottom there. The reef anchor tends to get me by most of the time. If I ever need the sand anchor, it's in there. But yeah, I agree, it is a bit awkward to get to and a bit of a pain in the backside to get out. So what else have I got here? Oh, so this is an Outrigger setup I got. It's just something I'm still working on. It's a bit of a prototype, just something I welded up. It's nothing special, but it's an Outrigger. You can wind it in just like a normal Outrigger. This is, like I say, a bit of a prototype I'm using. Got no intention of trolling with it. This is more for me when I'm sitting at anchor fishing baits, that I can fish a bait and fish it right out to one side of the boat. Because my goal is to start live baiting for some big kings, and I'm going to put them out on balloons. If I put them straight out the back, they're going to get in my way and they're going to get tangled up with my snapper baits. So the whole idea with this one was that I can stick my live bait out on a balloon, punch it right out on the Outrigger, that's just an old beach rod, basically a real stiff old beach rod that I had. So I can stick it out on the Outrigger and it pushes it out, and that's 12 foot out to one side of the boat, which will put the balloon out sort of out wide of the boat, and it's not going to be in anyone's way, and we can still fish out the back. So that's the whole reason I've been playing with this Outrigger. I've got no intention of trolling from it. I don't do much trolling. It's probably something I should start doing in the summer, but at the moment I don't. Possibility it may be alright for trolling, but generally I'd be trolling only 2 rods anyway, so there's no real need for an Outrigger. This is more for fishing live baits at anchor. I'm going to use this, so we'll see how that goes in the future. So another thing people ask me about is my GoPro mounts. Obviously you'll see this one here. Everyone sees me filming with this one, the one on the motor. That's the main one I use. I've also got a mount up here on the roof, which faces backwards. You'll sometimes see shots with that. I've got a mount here on the side of my Outrigger. Sometimes that shows in, and obviously the handheld one I've got here. The handheld one, this one on a bobber. This is on a floating handle, so if this goes in the water, sometimes I put it in the water. If I'm putting it in the water to film fish underwater or whatever, it's on a floating handle. If I drop it overboard, it's going to float. I'm not going to lose it. So the bobber is really cool. In the summertime when we're going for a swim or whatever, we use this bobber heaps. It's really handy, and you can throw the thing to each other. You can just throw it around to each other. How good are GoPros? They're just indestructible. They're really good. We actually run, between myself and my son, we've got 5 GoPros. We've got 5 GoPros, 6 batteries, and a whole heap of memory sticks that we sort of run together. So yeah, it can get a bit hectic downloading footage sometimes with all the different GoPros, but hopefully we'll get a bit better at it and we'll start getting some better footage for you. So that's it, guys. That's pretty much the run through of my boat. I don't know what else anyone wants to see, but yeah, if you've got anything else you really wanted to see, like I say, it's not new, it's nothing special, it's just what works for me. This is the 6th boat I've had since I've been doing this sort of thing. It's taken me a while to figure out what I want, what I need. Again, what you want, what you need, what you think you need, what your wife wants, what you can afford, what you can store. They're all different things. It's all stuff that needs to come into consideration. So after 6 boats, I've sort of narrowed it down a bit. I've had smaller, I've had bigger. I've worked myself down to this sort of size. This size is perfect for me. It gets me and my 2 boys out, which is all I really care about. Yeah, I come out with friends, but at the end of the day, I just want to come out with my 2 boys, which is awesome. I can handle it on my own. It's light. I can move it around easy enough. It's cheap to run. It goes like a scolded cat if you need it to. Like I said, I've clicked 40 knots in it and it still had more to go. There's no need to go that fast, but if you need to run fast, you can. But more importantly, this thing cruises at 20 knots. It'll cruise into a decent sea breeze, using hardly any fuel, and it'll be comfortable and dry, which is important. The kind of fishing I do in the winter, you guys see me out a lot of times in the afternoons, in the early mornings. If you're not warm and dry, you're just not going to want to go. If you don't want to go, the enthusiasm's gone. You're just not going to do it. You're going to stay in bed. Knowing that I can come out and stay warm and dry is a real big factor for me. It gets me out a lot more often than I would if I had to go out in the rain. I probably wouldn't, because I don't want to get wet, I don't want to get cold, it's just uncomfortable. So the main thing is being comfortable. If you're comfortable, you're going to go out a lot more often, which is going to put you on the fish a lot more often. So yeah, have a good think about it when you guys are buying boats. Everyone wants something different. What suits me doesn't suit other people. Yeah, it's a real personal thing. Oh, my lights. I was going to show you lights. People have asked about the lights before. All these are is just, they're just tight ass LED strips I get from eBay. Seriously, they're like $6 or something on eBay for a 5-meter strip. I buy them, I stick them on, they're stuck, they're all over my boat, they're everywhere. For the price of them, they're cheap, they're easy, you just stick them on, they're all hooked up 12 volt, they use bugger all power. Yeah, they're all this 3M sticky stuff. It doesn't last forever, but for $6 a roll, I don't care. If I have to replace it once a year, then I replace it once a year. It's no big deal. It's ideal, but because it lights up the whole boat, which is another point I'll probably make. Lighten up the whole boat. All of my stuff, as you see, most of my lights are all low in the boat. They're all under the gunnel level. Some people like to light the water up. I like to leave the water dark. I like the light in the bottom of the boat and outside dark. It spoils your night vision. If there's lights up high, it kind of ruins your night vision. I like to be able to look out in the dark. I don't like light on the water. Can honestly say I haven't tried it the other way. It may work just as good with lights on the water. I know it attracts squid and bait fish, so maybe it does work good. Just a personal preference. I like the lights underneath the gunnels. Lights up the floor perfectly. I have got a light up above me here on the targa bar, which kind of lights down, but it doesn't really light the back of the boat, which is sort of good for me. I've got head torches here. If I want to see what I'm doing, I can just whack a head torch on. It's more than enough light for what I need anyway. It works for me. Again, what other people like is different, so it's all an individual preference. But that's how I roll. So, yep, anyway, that's my vessel, guys. There's not much else I can show you. Yeah, if you like it, give it a thumbs up. Stay tuned, and hopefully I'll get out again, hopefully this afternoon. The weather's looking really nice now. Hopefully the swell sort of settles down a bit this afternoon, and I'll get out and give it another crack this afternoon. Since the boat's already out here hooked up ready, I'll see how I go. You.